This Three Beards Media podcast is sponsored by Revelton Distilling Company. When Rob and Chrissy Taylor started following the Kentucky Bourbon Trail in 2012, they fell in love with not only bourbon, but the entire distilling process. Just 8 short years later, in 2020, Revelton Distilling Company was opened, offering an entire family of products including vodka, gin, whiskey, and Revelton Shine. Come visit the tasting room at 1400 West Clay Street in Osceola, Iowa, where you can sample one of their many spirits, including 4 gold medal winners. Can't make it to Osceola today? Not a problem, as you can pick some up at your local Hy-Vee or Fairway grocery stores. Follow Revelton Distilling on Twitter or Instagram at ReveltonDC or their website www.reveltondistilling.com.
This Three Beards Media podcast may contain mature themes, and if you're not down with that, we got 3 words for you. Like the podcast. Nailed it!
Would you like to sample some of my nuts?
Welcome to a new episode of Old Man Strength. I am your host this time. We're going to switch things up. Chris Shipley and my co-host and talented, what can I say? I'm not very good at this. I got hung up when I said talented.
Because you were like, I'm already lying. I don't even know where to go from here. Yeah.
That's right. Ladies and gentlemen, Tim Johnson.
Well, thank you, Chris. That was you almost made it through that without laughing outright for calling me talented, but I very much appreciate it.
Well, I'm already doing better than you. See, I haven't insulted you at all, and that's not normally how this podcast goes. We are broadcasting live from the Betfred Studios. Betfred Sports is our new studio sponsor, and of course, we are primarily sponsored by Revelton Distilling and Wintrust Mortgage. Tim, I know you've had kind of a whirlwind week. How are things going for you?
Things are crazy. New people at work to train, some kind of personal family things going on. I'm trying to buy a house. I don't sleep. My eating is all out of whack, and I am not taking care of myself in any way, shape, or form. So things are really good. Honestly, thank you very much for asking.
Yeah, they sound better than normal. Well, I got 3 teeth pulled yesterday and somehow rallied and still went to the ISU tailgate tours. So,
I wanted to ask about that. So 3 teeth?
I've had some throbbing teeth pain for about 3 weeks now. I was supposed to go have them extracted, but then I lost my job that whole 3 months where I lost my job and I couldn't afford to pay for it. So I got this new job. Thought I might try to get rid of the pain, and of course the only day they could do it was the same day that I was going to go to the ISU tailgate tour. So somehow I made it. I powered through, but I think I would take that over buying a house.
But well, I was gonna say I don't know. The process right now has been basically like pulling teeth, but still 3 teeth. Yikes.
Well, I will tell you, and we'll get to our guests, but I will tell you quickly, when I signed the papers on this house that we're in now, I once signed a piece of paper during that process that specifically was for me to guarantee that I would sign additional papers at a later date.
Oh yeah, that's absolutely what this is. Like, yesterday, I apologize for being distracted. I literally have to sign. I thought I was done signing documents before tomorrow when I sign more documents, but I literally have to quick and sign a document here. I had to somehow. First of all, I don't know how you prove you're not someone.
Yeah.
Right, but like one time I was like, well, no, I appreciate that you think I might be that person. However, I was not born in 1954, so I probably cannot be. My mom was telling me when they refinanced their home like years ago, She had to bring in a non-relative to vouch that she was not the owner of debt on a horse farm or something like that. And like, which I don't even understand how that works. Like, I can find plenty of friends to lie for me.
Right.
Right. Like,
Yeah.
how is non-relative making this any better? But I had to prove yesterday that I was not the Tim Johnson that just got a judgment against them from the federal government for $280,000. So I'm not. That's more than the house I'm buying is, but
for half of that I'd have vouched for you. But we want to get to our guest tonight. So I will let you kick it off and introduce our guest.
Yeah, I'm really excited to talk to this person. It's somebody that I've followed for a number of years. We follow each other on Twitter, and he's a great follow if you care anything about Iowa sports. If you really care just for an interesting commentary on a lot of things. He doesn't just tweet about sports, although he does a great job with that. Someone who has been actually both a Hawkeye and a Cyclone in his lifetime, which is a rarity for the polarizing podcast network that we are. But we are joined by the Cedar Rapids Gazette's Rob Gray. Rob Gray, welcome to Old Man Strength.
Nice to join both of you. You were joking before we got on that you guys don't know what you're doing, but I mean, you've got, because the podcast is important to you, you've got this great setup. I'm using the little camera in my old MacBook Pro. You've got a nice blurred backdrop, Tim. You got, the lighting on you is magnificent. And for me, I look like I'm kind of blue because it's not the greatest resolution, but I'm not blue. I'm mostly tan. I'm doing a lot of gardening and yard work this year. But no, it's great to be with you, and so interested to see where this goes.
We are as well.
It's always a crapshoot whenever we hop on here. There's no amount of lighting that's going to make me look good. So,
yeah,
Tim gave you a brief introduction, but why don't you, for listeners and watchers that aren't familiar with some of your background, why don't you fill in the gaps?
Yeah, so I'll do the thumbnail from beginning. I was born in Ames, Mary Greeley Hospital. So was my wife, incidentally, but I didn't meet her until I was 33.
Oh, wow.
We have 2 kids now, and we live in Ankeny, but born and raised in Ames. My mom went to Iowa, and my dad went to UNI, and you know what that means. Grow up as a Hawk fan. So, but I like being in Ames, I like the Cyclones, but it was kind of fun being the one guy who, 80% was against. So whenever Iowa won it in football, that was a lot growing up at a certain age and beyond, to be the guy to rub it in their face. And then, boy, if they, got us one in men's basketball, they'd rub it in my face, and it was kind of fun. But, now I'm certainly technically not a fan of anything. I like to say as sports writers, we root for A, fast games, and B, generally, you generally want the teams you cover to have some measure of success, because it's no fun when you're writing the same story about what went wrong. The future possibilities tend to open up and all of that. So had some good runs with Iowa State in recent years, but I started out the Des Moines Register right out of late getting my journalism degree after I'd gotten a broadcasting and film degree at Iowa, hence the Hawkeye, then Cyclone. I got the journalism degree from Iowa State's Greenlee School, and I went straight to the Register. They kept me on mostly for features. I covered just about everything I could there. If you want to look at a modern analog for this old man, it's Tommy Birch probably. And I just burned out. My kids were young. 2010 layoffs had started. I learned how to garden, frankly, because of an unpaid furlough. So I have an unpaid furlough, which sucks. But I was like looking in the backyard. We had a couple trees. I'm like, maybe I could plant a flower or 2. So now I'm an avid gardener. So I got something out of that. But left the Register on my own terms. Went to the Gazette for a while, tried PR, did not work with my personality, and went to Cyclone Fanatic for a while. I have a great relationship with Chris and Jared and Connor and Jackie and so many people over there. And then it just worked out that a move back to the Gazette would work out, would be best for me in terms of getting more full-time outside of the football season. And yeah, write for the Gazette, the Lee newspapers of Mesa City Globe Gazette, Waterloo Cedar Falls Courier, Quad City Times, and some of those. And it's been fun. So I don't know. I mean, talk about a lot of crazy things I've done in my life, and maybe we'll get into that. But that's kind of the thumbnail sketch of me as a lad, all the way up to me as now a 23-year vet in the sports writing business.
So what made you decide right after getting your film degree that you wanted to get a journalism degree?
What did not make me decide, it took a while.
Okay.
What made me decide is I was really into film. And so I was acing. I almost flunked out of Iowa, by the way. I partied too much the first semester. And probably the first 2 years probably.
No, you partied too much all semesters, Chris. Let's be fair.
No. First 3 semesters, then I straightened up.
You didn't know you were going to graduate on the way to graduation. That is a true story, by the way, Rob.
True story.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and believe it. But anyway, yeah, I really just was a party maniac, and I couldn't get my GPA up enough to get back on track at the journalism degree at Iowa. And again, film had always fascinated me, and I did everything. I did all the European film, the silent film. I mean, I could break down film in so many ways, tedious and how would I put it, hoity-toity or highfalutin ways, and boring, just probably infuriating ways to the layperson. But once I was done, I'd been in enough of those classes with a lot of, frankly, what I thought were pretentious people. I'm like, holy crap, if I want to keep doing this, I got to move to LA. I don't want to go to LA. I have no desire to go to LA. And since my sister has moved there and she's married to someone in the industry, and I love going to LA, but I was like, I'm not doing that. So I bummed around, did some painting jobs, just saved some money, went to Europe, taught English in Prague in the Czech Republic, did a lot more partying there. Some of the best months of my life in terms of fun, and backpacked in Central America for 2 months, and just was really kind of trying to find myself by challenging myself in different ways. I'd never been out of the country, and that completely changed who I am. Being exposed to other cultures, whether European is close enough to us, but being the fact that it was Central and Eastern Europe, it's not like I was walking around London. When you're talking Prague, you're going to Budapest at times, Bratislava and Slovakia, etc. So, and the Central American trip changed my life too. I mean, all the things I learned to scuba dive. I'm a certified scuba diver for life. I don't know how I'd do if I decided to go again, but I could do it. And I kind of found myself in that, well, I got to do something with my life other than travel, because painting and traveling isn't going to probably lead to the type of existence that I want long term. And I was able to get in at Iowa State with basically a year and a half to go because of all the classes I'd taken at Iowa, including above and beyond. The upside for me being a partier and having terrible grades the first year and a half or 2 years is by the time I was done, I had to take so many extra courses. I almost had enough to have a master's in film study. So I'd done a lot academically, and I learned how to be a 3.5 student, more or less. And that's what translated to Iowa State, and graduated from there, and was fortunate to get placed at the Register by now retired Mark Witherspoon, who worked at Iowa State for a long time, a longtime guy at the Dallas Morning News. Got me set up there, and away I went, and all those other stops. Long-winded answer, but I wanted to fit in a little bit of the other stuff to say. It was not an A to B transition. It was a lot of meandering, wandering, and a lot of fun, but a lot of sobering experiences too, to kind of sort life out.
Yeah, that wasn't long-winded at all. That was amazing. I had no idea you would kind of live sort of the most interesting man in the world lifestyle for a little bit there.
I had my moment.
So you get your journalism degree, you spend time at the Register. You like you're just an Iowa boy through and through.
I've lived in Iowa almost my entire life.
Sure.
I thought for sure I would never come back to Iowa once I started traveling internationally, that I would go work somewhere else. But, you know, when you land at the time, you know, the Register was a fully staffed, healthy circulation paper that was kind of a destination. And once I got out of the first couple years of, you know, financial purgatory, I mean, I could make at least okay money, you know, and in this industry, okay money is great money compared to most others. So then I met my wife on Ragbri. Oddly enough, I knew her parents before I met her. I partied with her parents before we met. And, you know, just serendipity or whatever. And it kind of kept me here. And I covered a lot of things. I covered mostly high schools when I was at the Register and UNI. You know, did a little Iowa State and Iowa here and there, but I mean, the high schools were a big beat then. I was the main high school boys high school basketball writer, and did a lot of football and other things, and you know, covered UNI in the national championship game in Chattanooga when they had Eric Sanders. You know, feels like a long time ago because it was, but you know, didn't really start covering Iowa State a lot until my first stint with the Gazette, and then of course with Fanatic, and now back with the Gazette. So that's been about a 13-year span where I've been pretty intimately associated with covering the Cyclones.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned earlier as a writer, you want sports to A, get over quickly, and B, to not have to want them to have success. Over your span of covering the Cyclones, you've seen in a lot of ways both ends of that spectrum.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you just get far more interesting stories when people are in a better mood. So when they have success, you just and you know, COVID was a whole other hurdle. I mean, one of my best traits is being able to dig in and do long feature stories that get at aspects of a player or a coach or people that most people don't know about, and do it in a skillful way. Well, when COVID happened, I was getting what everyone else got. I even went through a period where I couldn't ask questions on the Zooms because my microphone was broken on this, and I wanted to record with my phone. So I was asking questions for a while. Now that's come back around a little bit. But yeah, I mean, I've seen what was really a tough time was the last few years of Rhoads. And then, okay, who's this Matt Campbell cat coming in, youngest coach in FBS? You know, I remember the day he was announced, and it's like, boy, this guy sure's got an it factor to him. You know, the way that he carries himself, the enthusiasm with which he speaks. And year one felt like an extension of Rhoads last year. You know, they went to the game at Iowa, got embarrassed. I know Campbell let them know about that a little bit, but I feel like that first year of Campbell was kind of like a year in which they figured out, A, who do they want to keep in this program, and who do they want to jettison?
Yeah.
And who can they possibly build around? What type of culture can they build based on, you know, Rhoads built a great culture, but at the end it was frayed, and it wasn't just because of the losing. I mean, the depth was never there, obviously. And that's the most amazing thing that's happened under Campbell, that they have depth at all positions. I'd never seen that at Iowa State my entire life. Even McCarney, I mean, you were one injury away of, oh no, this guy that's going to have to come in and play defensive tackle probably shouldn't even be playing at Indiana State. So a lot of hard times. And when it's 2-10 and 3-9, the story is, like I said, what went wrong this time? What went wrong this time? And it's usually one or two or three things. So you, other than senior day where you can kind of be like exploring people's lives, that's the talk, right? There's no success. So then when you bring some in, and I think Campbell once said that it almost came a little bit too early in 2007, just in the terms of the way guys didn't really know how to handle it. But the first year getting the Liberty Bowl and the Lanning and Land Ram stuff and all that. I mean, it was interesting to see that corner turned a little bit because they did things that they hadn't done before, like the Oklahoma game. I mean, you could tell that stuff was going to happen that, again, was unprecedented at Iowa State. And since then, last year was unprecedented in a sense too. I mean, I've never seen a team give up 63 points and 370 some yards of offense. I mean, there were so many ways that if it could go wrong, it would go wrong, not only to a T, but like spectacularly wrong. But the talent is still there. I mean, the 7-1 score games. So, lately, a good amount of success, including in men's and women's basketball and wrestling on the rise, but definitely some lean years in there as well.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about the depth. So obviously, you know, Chris and I, growing up in the 80s, suffered through the Kreiner and Walden and all of that stuff. You know, and we had Coach Mack on the pod, and you know, he was kind of the first, the one that kind of turned the corner to where it gave Iowa State fans hope that like you can actually find success at a school like Iowa State. You don't have to just resign yourself. But like the recruiting angle that both Coach Campbell and like Coach TJ have brought, like we're now getting in both of those sports classes that we've never seen anywhere close to.
Yeah, and I mean, especially obviously TJ with the most recent class with Omaha Billieu and Milan Musilovic and others. I mean, ranked 11th by the 247 composite. I mean, that's just mind-boggling. And then you go and get the three great transfers in Pavletsky and Gilbert and Curtis Jones. So I mean, what TJ's done, someone needs to write a book about, because his strategy by necessity had to be a little bit like Fred's in a different era, where Fred was like one of the trailblazers in terms of building a team based on transfers, because he had to if they wanted to try to get success pretty quickly. In the transition year they had Deontay Garrett and all that, but they had to bring some guys in, and there were high level guys available. Now it's a bit, you can be a bit more selective, but also now with NIL in the mix, there's certain guys you are not even going to be aren't even going to be in play for you. They're really good at finding the right kinds of guys, existing relationships with most, if not all of those three guys coming in. And then you bring back a guy like Taman Lipsy, who I think overperformed what anyone's expectations were by a lot. Offensive challenges aside, his ability to get in there and keep defensive rebound and keep that ball alive, tip it out to other guys for a point guard is elite. And so, you know, to be in line to possibly go to an NCAA tournament for a third time in a row, have the Sweet 16 the first year after coming off 2-22 and what had happened at the tail end of the Prom era is borderline miraculous. And as you mentioned, Coach Campbell is bringing in guys. They're not ever going to have a top 11 composite class, but consistently, you know, higher than it's ever been. And the 3-star guys, 2 and 3-star guys they develop really well. Now, not maybe as well on the offensive line recently, and that it's just some changes there, but a lot of positions. I mean, and finding diamonds in the rough, like Will McDonald, who hadn't played football very long, and they get in on him and look at who he develops into, not only as a player, but as a person. So really good philosophies for both those guys, which is we're going to establish a culture. We're going to find guys that fit that culture. We think fit that culture, and they've been pretty good at hitting in terms of who they go after and the fit.
Last night, I was at the ISU tailgate tour, and they, you know, Coach Fennelly was coming up, top 10 recruiting class for him. And then we talked about TJ's, and somebody at the table last night just mentioned that wondered maybe if some of Fred's success wasn't as a result of having TJ on that staff, and was maybe Fred not as successful as we think just based off of that. I mean, you look what he does at Nebraska now. Any validity maybe to that argument, do you think?
Well, I think there's no question Fred is a heck of a coach, but TJ was an integral recruiter. And again, I mean, also a really good basketball mind, and a guy who is humble enough to not say, I've got a way, or this is the type of team I want to have, and period, that's it. You know, he came in knowing the only way that first team would have success. And who knew that Isaiah Brockington would become an elite scorer after just being a guy at Penn State that showed flashes. And to have some of those guys pop off a little bit. But again, the offense was pretty dreadful that first year, but the defense was something like we've never seen, at least since probably Tim Floyd, a little bit of Lee Stacey probably too, but they knew the only way they'd have a chance to have a winning team is to build around that. Because what do you get when you build around defense and toughness? You get the kind of guys who are going to buy in and be leaders and work hard, do the things that you need to do in order to succeed as a program. So I don't think that's going to change. And I think, yeah, DJ was integral to Fred's success. I don't think there's any doubt about it. He was integral to what success McDermott had too, which they talk about a hamstrung or a hard luck deal from Luka to Wes Johnson leaving the way he left. And I mean, they got players.
Yeah, you look at
they couldn't keep them, or something would happen. It just and TJ was a big part of that. His relationships back in Milwaukee and the Twin Cities, we're seeing that in the 3 transfers coming in, and down into Kansas City, they've got guys. I mean, the staff he put together, Kyle Green, genius move to get him at Iowa State, and everyone else there, they're filling their roles extremely well. So again, a long-winded answer, but I mean, yeah, Fred deserves a lot of credit because he did put together an exciting brand of basketball, but TJ his fingerprints are all over any bit of success Iowa State's had in the last decade.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the number of NBA players that Greg had. It's actually, I think when people take a step back and look at that, Fred maybe only had a couple more NBA players on his rosters than Greg did. It was just a matter of being able to put together the X's and O's with the recruiting talent. And maybe that's something that I think Fred did well. Like Fred operated a little bit more like a CEO. In that I get the right people in line, I get the right staff in line, the managers in line, and the employees in line, and I show a vision and we're good to go. Whereas TJ is more like a general manager, like diving in type of thing. It's very interesting to see a little bit of Greg and a little bit of Fred and TJ, and I think also just his demeanor is probably the funnest thing to me because he never looks happy, which is the best thing about him.
Yeah.
Never looking satisfied is the epitome of a good coach, I think.
Well, the best thing is, I mean, Fred has a great sense of humor, by the way, if you ever saw it on display. I mean, it's kind of offbeat. I was good friends, or I am, but I haven't seen him in a long time, with his older brother, Steve, who graduated the same class, who's a heck of a baseball player. We both enjoyed kind of offbeat sense of humor. And I think Fred's got that a little bit. TJ has a lot of fun when he'll deadpan. I was at a press conference and I said something like, what does it mean, to do something at a school like Iowa State or something, it just kind of I don't know if I was inelegant. It was inelegant how I put it, and TJ just kind of looked at him. He goes, "What do you mean a school like Iowa State?" As far as I'm concerned, there's no school like Iowa State, and that's why I love it so much. And then he went into the answer, and he'll do stuff with Eddie Peterson, the 50+ year register reporter, giving him a hard time a little bit and having fun. So he has that, I see the crossed arms and the scowl kind of thing going on. But I think he definitely has a wry sense of humor underneath that veneer.
Yeah, I just love the fact that the men's and women's basketball program has a father-in-law, son-in-law dynamic. Like not in-law, but I mean like player, like dynamic. You know what I mean? Like he's literally married to a player that played for Bill Fennelly, so he's got that this double, like he. It's so fun because we've had Bill on the pod, and to me, Bill is the most elder statesman of all Iowa State coaches in every way. He's had this super long career, this super long, level of success, maintained level of success, and he took over when like Iowa State had like 5 players on the program, and what he's done and how he's maintained it. And there has to be a part like where TJ is like the hot name and everyone's talking about him and all these things. But he probably still always has to kind of look up to Bill in a certain way because he's, he's married to one of his former players that like he's probably always kind of looked up into a certain way that he probably has to have this, as confident as he can get. He has to be like sheepish about like all of that. And he still knows where he is in all of those things.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I think there's a very good, I hadn't even thought about that, obviously Allison, TJ, and Bill, of course, has been there. I mean, my favorite thing about Bill, just as an aside, is A, he's very funny, and B, he will trot out the same story again and again. And he doesn't care. And it might be coming, but you might get a second wrinkle after that. Like the one about he has the framed stat sheet from his first game that he is, and whatever the attendance was, just a sparsely attended game. Mm-hmm. And always to remind him, of where it started there, and then the stories of him going out to all these places saying, "Hey, what's it going to take to get you guys? Here's some tickets. Hey, you want to come watch us? Come watch, give us a chance." I mean, he had to be a salesman as much as a coach. And I think that deepens his love for the place, which obviously, like the process, loves him back as well. If you love it, I mean, his record speaks for itself. And I don't tell you how many times when I had to write on deadline. Now that deadlines are so early, I don't have to do a whole lot on deadline anymore where I'm working quotes in anyway. But that guy saved a decent story because I knew I could just say, Bill Fennelly narrowed his eyes and cracked a thin smile or something about blank, and then you could set a scene that puts people there, and he'd give you the greatest quote, and you could just slap the score in there, and you're off and away, and you could do your story like that.
I used to always say that any sports writer during the Johnny Orr era didn't have to do like any work whatsoever.
Yeah. Johnny probably could have done the same thing.
Right.
Some zinger.
Like Johnny Orr, all you had to do was say, "So, coach, tell me," and stick a mic in front of him, and you would have had an entire series with the quotes.
I think it just is a testament to Coach Fennelly when you hear people like Dan McCarney, who was on the pod, say that there should be a statue put in there for him. TJ, the way he speaks about him. Even last night, I was editing Sigh of the Storm with Marcus Pfizer and Brent Gervais, and Marcus was talking about Bill Fennelly and how he was the GOAT, and how when he was there, I think it was the year 2000 when they both teams won the Big 12 championship. And he said, I would watch his women's team and it would inspire me to work harder because I was afraid Coach Fennelly would be disappointed in me. It's kind of a nice thing and a profound thing to say.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That's really impressive. And not only regular season, but the conference tournaments that year, right? Too. I mean, 2000. We thought all the computers were going to melt down and the world was going to end. But instead, Iowa State probably should have won a national championship in men's basketball, but for some home cooking in the Palace of Auburn Hills in the Elite Eight.
Instead, Coach Eustace melted down.
Yes.
Exactly. Exactly.
Let's go ahead and we're going to take a break here from Revelton Distilling Company. Check out them. They are releasing their second edition of their rye this weekend on Saturday. It's a distiller's edition, and it's only down there at the distillery. So I was lucky enough to grab 2 bottles at their first edition. So, but let's go ahead and get a word from Revelton Distilling Company.
At Revelton Distilling Company, everyone has become a part of the Revelton family. From the Taylors and their daughter who helped perfect their award-winning gins, to the team who installed Lucy, our 33-foot-tall custom-made still, right down to the local farms that provide our coveted corn, and even the cows on those farms who consume our mash byproduct. Want to see the farm to flask come to life? Now you can tour Lucy and find out where we take Iowa's harvest and transform it into our finest spirits. Choose between a 45-minute tour or find out even more by scheduling a VIP behind-the-scenes tour to get the taste of the full Revelton experience. You can visit them at 1400 West Clay Street in Osceola, Iowa, or find all of Revelton's award-winning spirits at any local grocery or spirits retailer.
All right. Thank you very much from that word from Revelton Distilling Company. We are still joined by Rob Gray. Rob, I wanted to ask you one quick question, circle back. You were talking about the transition time with Coach Rhoads and Coach Campbell. So from an outside perspective, it looked to me that Rhoads was kind of spent. And I almost think he thought that the writing was on the wall. There were a couple quotes that he had. I vividly remember the quote that he had when he said we shouldn't be able to beat Texas, and he said it out loud. And I thought to myself, man, you can't say that stuff out loud. It's almost like, hey, you should be grateful for what I'm giving you now, because we shouldn't even be in that game.
Yep.
And I have a different memory of Campbell's first. Yeah, we lost at Iowa. It was bad. But I felt that second half of that season, we were in every game and we competed. And I got the impression from him, hey, I don't care where we're at. We should not be embarrassed out here, and we deserve to be on the field with them. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. I mean, you saw I think, like any good coaching staff, and he's of course got John Haycock, great defensive mind there with them. A lot of the guys, Eli Rashid, have been there for a long time, Coach Veit, etc. They know how to build success, and they'll tell you flat out. I mean, Campbell's candor. Remember when he got in trouble, as an aside or a tangent, with Brady Quinn, because he made a point to say, no, we don't come out and say our goal is to win the Big 12 every year. It's because it's more nuanced than that. If we do things the way we're supposed to do things, we are going to be in line to do that every year. We don't just say, here's the result we want, and then we're going to tailor everything to get the result. We're going to do all the things that we should do in order to get the result we want, not the reverse. And that it was so asinine that was, he doesn't want to win the Big 12. Imagine going. That's just that a Notre Dame, presumably graduated from Notre Dame, could actually think that is mind-boggling to me. But again, this is Campbell. I mean, he once made it kind of clear that he probably thought at some point he was going to be a high school teacher and a football coach.
Yeah.
Well, and he would have been fine with that.
Well, and also Brady, I'm sorry. I don't know anyone who really respects Brady Quinn's opinion on like any. I don't even think Brady Quinn respects Brady Quinn's opinion on a whole lot. Like I've never thought, who are the deep thinkers in college sports right now? Brady Quinn.
Us? Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's us, Rob. It's us.
I mean, everyone has their moment, but that was just a dumb thing. But it was just illustrative of Campbell doesn't care what you think about his methods.
No,
he doesn't care if you think they're corny. He doesn't care about any of that stuff, because you know what he learned throughout his entire life from Division III Mount Union, or working with his dad in high school. They work. They work. And
it's funny. Yeah. Sorry, it's funny that quote came up tonight, because before I came down here, my wife and I were watching Tuesday night's episode of Ted Lasso, and not to spoil it, but after the game, the rival coach for Manchester United came over to him, and he said, "Hey, we finally won one." And that coach, his reply was, "It's not about losses and wins, coaches. It's about having the best version of your players." It was the exact quote that was in Ted Lasso that tonight.
Wow.
So it's funny. It's funny. I know that apparently Manchester United does not care about winning. I don't know, whatever cup it is.
Only the winningest, the winningest franchise.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I just found it funny because I was like, holy smokes, that's the exact quote that Matt Campbell used.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, good. Thank you for ruining Ted Lasso since I'm behind, Chris. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I'm behind too.
You've had 2 days.
I would have loved to have. I'm trying to buy a house. I'm not watching Ted Lasso. You settled down.
Fortunately, there's not much suspense. What makes Ted Lasso great is the characters, the writing, the warmth, the depth. You kind of know what's going to happen. And that's so it's not suspense. It's
I cried a little bit in tonight's episode, and everybody knows me. I don't cry.
I'm gonna cry too.
Yeah, I was gonna say. So, because wasn't he on the show supposed to be like the Wichita State Shockers football coach or something like that?
Yeah.
He literally is a prototype of like your humble Midwestern coach. Like that's the part they got right. Like the whole goofy dancing in the locker room thing was very Fred dancing in New York in the locker room, and like his humility about making players into better players and not caring about wins and losses type of thing is a very Matt Campbell. Like it has not been lost on me that there's a lot of Iowa State coach parallels in Ted Lasso, and I know that probably every school can probably say the same thing.
No, I don't know.
There
are similarities.
Off as warm and fuzzy to me.
Yeah, there's no Rick Pitino, there's no Nick Saban, there's no. I mean, even coaches I like Mike Leach. There's none of that in Ted Lasso. There's more of the Campbells and like Hoibergs or TJs. Like there's a little bit more of that.
Got some really good villains too. Yep. I wanted to say one thing about Chris, since I went on the tangent and we were still on it for a while there. The end of Rhoads was really a sad time because I don't know you talk about somebody who loved coaching for Iowa State. Paul Rhoads loved coaching Iowa State football. It meant a lot to him. And I think ultimately why Paul and I'll tell you what, the 2012 season, that could have been an 8 or 9 win team. But Jake Knott got hurt. A number of things happened. That could have been, one of 3 teams to maybe win 9 games. But Paul Rhoads grew up in Iowa. Paul Rhoads was the son of a high school football coach in Iowa. He knew all about Iowa State. And what do you know about Iowa State? Iowa State's, as Campbell would say, was a loser program. And it's hard not to have that inform you as you coach that team. Why would he was celebrating the shutout over Texas by saying there's no way this should happen given the disparity in recruiting we have, right?
Yeah.
What you mentioned. It didn't dawn on him to think, you know what, maybe we should.
Right.
Yeah. Texas, right. I remember him talking about how hard it was to build a decent defensive line. Yeah, they got some players, but again, they'd never have depth. And of course, some of those players are problematic, like David Irving and Rodney Coe. It was almost impossible to recruit a Big 12 caliber defensive line to Ames, Iowa. And what did Campbell and Rashid and Haycock and company do? They've got the best defensive line by far Iowa State's ever had. And it's a constant. Yeah. And it happened by year 2. So in a sense, I think Paul was hamstrung by his idea of what a ceiling for Iowa State was, having been around it his whole life. I mean, when he's coaching elsewhere, he knows what has happened in Iowa State.
Yeah.
And Campbell came in and immediately said, who are these people? Why do they think they can't do this and this and this and this? Why? Because they hardly ever had. Yeah. And even when McCarney got the 9-win season, they got trounced. At least 2 of those other games, maybe 3.
Yeah.
I remember that Oklahoma game. They were down like 28-0 in the first quarter. It was like, hey,
I always talk about that. Like that first one, I still call it Copper Bowl, even though it was the Insight Bowl that first year. I still call it the Copper Bowl because that's what it was before then. But then they still lost to Oklahoma like 55-10 or something like that. Like something silly. Like I would rather have, like, for an Iowa State fan, I would rather have like a 7-win season where we're competitive in every game than a 9-win season where we beat up on like Kansas and at that time a bad Baylor team. Baylor is the most enigmatic program in the history. But like we were never like the 2 years where we could have been the Big 12 North Division champs. We had no business with that because we couldn't hang with the Big 12 South anyway. Like it wasn't right. Anywhere close, right? Like, but to find someone that really went, no, that's not what this is. Like it's like you said, it's a matter of living up to or down to expectations. And as much as I'm reticent to compare a young guy who is younger than me and Matt Campbell to a guy who is older than Jesus and Bill Snyder, I think they kind of are cut from the same cloth in that they just say, I don't care where I'm at. I don't care what the history is. I don't care that I'm in the middle of nowhere. That's not how this works. You don't have success because you're in. I mean, look, I live in Minneapolis. The fact that the University of Minnesota teams are so piss poor in so many sports, like Iowa State should never out recruit Minneapolis in anything. We have a billion more things to do than Ames. Mm-hmm. But think about how many players, like in basketball, who have been recruited away from Minnesota. Royce White, Gabe Kalsher, all these players. I mean, Jake Sullivan even got recruited away from Minnesota to Ames, Iowa. That's not about what you do in your off time. That's about what you do in your on time. And your on time is practice, and it's about culture, and it's about all of those things. And Matt Campbell is just so good at that.
Yeah, he is. I mean, you see it in his players. I mean, really, in each of the past 2 seasons, you could argue the things that he hangs his hat on, detail and all, and doing the little things, they have done poorly in those things, especially last season.
Yeah.
And certainly, I would obviously you would say underachieving from a result standpoint in Brock's final season, where the close losses mounted up a bit, and they couldn't get out of their own way on special teams a couple times and things like that. But people think that that's indicative of some sort of, I mean, you have runs of bad luck, and who knows that you're going to have to rely on a true freshman kicker because your offense sputters every single time you get in the opponent's red zone, and he's got to hit pressure kick after pressure kick. Any kicker can go on a bad streak if it gets in their head. And,
Rob, I live in Minnesota, so that means I'm a Viking fan. So which means I understand. That means I understand a very good kicker getting in their own head in a crucial situation. Yes. I get that.
More than one.
Or a whole franchise.
Yeah. But I know. But like that's the thing. Like people always talk about Matt Campbell being the hot name because he can coach. He can go coach here. He can coach there. He's going to be every 30 minutes there for a while. It seemed like he's going to go to this place. He's going to go to that place. The only franchise at this point that I'm worried that Matt Campbell is going to go to is the New York Jets, because apparently that's like all Cyclones at this point.
Right. Let's go ahead and take our real quick break for Wintrust, and then we've got about 10 minutes left. I want to give the Wintrust question of the pod, and then we will hit the Steph Copley segment, and then we will let Rob go. So we're going to hear from Wintrust right now.
Are you in the market for a new house and unsure of the mortgage process? Want to know that you have someone looking out for you? Kyle Lehman from Wintrust Mortgage is a down-to-earth, knowledgeable lender who can be there for you in your corner. He can work with you in any of the 50 states and is just what you need to expand your home search. Kyle will work with you through the entire process with little to no work from you. Take the worry of the mortgage process out of the equation so that you can focus on looking for your dream home. Contact Kyle at www.wintrust.com/Kyle-Lehman or call him at 515-473-0546.
All right, we're back, and we are now where we're going to ask Rob Gray our Wintrust question of the pod. And Tim, I will let you take it away.
All right. So, Rob, the question that we ask all of our guests, you've got a DeLorean and you can travel back in time. And you can go find Rob Gray from 10 years ago. What advice are you giving that, Rob Gray?
Let's see, 10 years ago. See, I'm already old still. It's not fair.
Oh, well, then we can go 20 years.
where?
We can go 20 years. We can go
Where?
Yeah.
Okay, let's go 20. I just had my 20th wedding anniversary. So
Congratulations.
I appreciate that.
Wait, then 20 years ago or now?
Jesus, how old? Say if
where's that John C. Riley gift? You know,
if I could, because if I could go 16 years in the past, I would have told Tim. Oh boy, is it 17 years? If I could go 17 years in the past, no. Anyway, been a long time. No, 20 years ago is when I got married. Jesus, how did I know this? Go nuts. Rob, you and I got married the same year.
Nice.
Yeah. Oh, well, you're still married, so that's different.
I was married. Oh well. First, I will say you're not going to believe some of the shit that's going to happen in this country and world. Be ready. Love your loved ones. Know yourself. Because you're going to be confronted with things that will test your character, will test your empathy, will test your, resolve to do the right thing and stand for the right things. Steadfast. And second of all, I would say, you might not know this for sure, but you're going to be fortunate enough to be the father of a daughter and a son. And, be good to them, learn, pass along the good things your parents did for you and try to ditch the ones that you remember didn't always make you feel the best or didn't serve you as well. And, I think that's a pretty standard one, but I mean, another one is just, you don't be afraid to be who you are. Sometimes it doesn't pay to be vocal or out there, but you've got to stand for something and you've got to believe in something. And, if first and foremost, that thing is caring for other people, you're going to have a successful life. And 20 years from now, you're going to be feeling pretty good, no matter what kind of shit show the world looks like, in the future at times.
Yeah, no, Rob, that's one thing I really appreciate about you is that as a journalist and you're, you said that you're sports fan neutral or whatever, and you're trying to be as objective as possible. One thing I very much appreciated about you is that when there is an issue that matters to you, when there's an issue that you care about, you don't have to be objective about like human decency.
Yeah.
Right. And I very much appreciated that about you, is that you are not afraid to still be you and stand up for what you believe in. So I really appreciate that.
I agree.
Well, I appreciate that a ton, and I appreciate that from you guys too. I mean, me having been in more of an institutional type media setting, right? You guys have built your network from the ground up, which I'm very impressed by. But I kind of feel like picking your battles is important because we're at a time where you're not going to convince the people who don't who believe certain things.
Sure.
You're not going to convince them of anything. So I tend to stay out of the frame that I usually get a boiling point on something and I just have to bend it out a little bit, but I try to do it as constructively as possible. I've had my moments in the past where I really kind of let it fly, and that doesn't do anybody any favors. Yeah, people who agree with me like it. People who don't agree with me threaten me in my DMs. That's mostly people who I would never know or meet too.
Right.
That's
No, that's it. Yeah.
And that's not really worth it. I think it's about how you live your life, not online, but in real time. And that's the big thing for me. But yeah, there are times where I feel like I've got to say something. I'm going to say it, and I'm not going to shy away from it. And that's how it is. But no, I appreciate how you guys put yourselves out there as well in the same vein.
Well, in the spirit of that, we'll quickly do this last segment, which is sponsored in part by Steph Copley, because when Steph Copley was on our pod, she famously told Tim to shut the fuck up so she could say something. And I decided that was a great segment. And so we asked that people go donate to the Young Women's Resource Center in honor of Steph. And this is where Tim and I shut the fuck up, and Rob, you get to say whatever you want.
Hey everybody, it's Steph Copley, the woman behind the STFU segment on the Old Man Strength podcast. When I told the guys I wanted to sponsor this segment, they recommended that I make a charitable donation instead, so that's what I did. I chose the Young Women's Resource Center in Des Moines, Iowa. They're a nonprofit that supports, educates, and advocates for girls and young women ages 10 to 24. Their whole goal is to make sure that these young women become strong, self-confident, and successful. And if you know me at all, you know that aligns with my goals as well. If you're interested and would like to donate, check them out at ywrc.org and donate today. And remember, don't forget to STFU and listen every once in a while. Thanks.
Well, what I want to say right now is might be a little bit disappointing. My Celtics are kicking butt, and I think they've got a real chance to be the first team to come back from down 3-0 in the NBA playoffs. Get it back to Boston for Game 6. I'm stoked. I couldn't have been more disappointed in how soft a team they were throughout the playoffs and the first 3 games of this series. Still lots of time left, though. They've blown 20-point leads against the Heat in fourth quarter last year a couple times, so we'll see. But fortunately, since I don't cover the Celtics ever, and I don't think I ever will, I can be a fan, and I'm enjoying it because I was a fan with my dad back in the great 80s Celtics era, and it's just a lot of fun. I don't know if that's what you were looking for, but I had to give a shout out to my Celtics because, again, I thought they were dead in the water. They still probably won't do it, but it's exciting to see them show some fight. That's what I got to say.
We'll take it. It's much better than Andrew Downs when he talked about how great Fran McCaffrey was.
No, I appreciate that. I'm rooting for your Celtics. I don't even hate the Heat. I think Eric Spoelstra is a great coach. Jimmy Butler was born in September, so I know he's a Virgo, but I've always assumed he was a Cancer. So
that is where I'm going to cut out and put online. That was so great.
No, Rob, I know you got to go. I just like one last time. I want to thank you very much. You've always been one of my favorite people virtually, so it's great to be able to like sit down and have like a real conversation with you. I really hope that if there's any other time where we have some other like special kind of episode where we could bring you back on, if you would join us, that would mean the world to me. Very insightful, very interesting, like even more interesting than I know. You're maybe one of the more humble people that we've had on here, so this is amazing. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you for the kind words, and I would love to come on again sometime for sure. And I appreciate you guys reaching out. And again, it's impressive what you guys have done. I mean, it's not easy to go, cold into this thing, right? And then build relationships, including some high profile relationships. That's impressive to me. And again, I think I'm a kindred spirit with you guys. So yeah. I can't say anytime, but I can say many more. I can't say many more times. I'm definitely game to come on when the timing's right.
I'll check the Celtics schedule next time. Make sure. I assumed they were going to be lost by now, and
Yeah, I figured they'd be gone too.
So I figured they'd be gone by now. So I don't know. Teddy Holly, my buddy's been talking about how they're going to win every game from here on out. So maybe he might be right. So
Teddy.
Well, they'd have to pull the 2004 Red Sox then. They were down 3-0 to the Yankees, and that's the example of that. But yeah, great to be with you guys, and I'll definitely be glad to come on again.
All right. Thanks, Rob.
Yeah, appreciate it, fellas.
Yep. Thank you, listeners, for hopping on with us again. Stick around for all of our pods on threebeardsmedia.com, Bitter Units. I know they're going to release a new one here shortly. Of course, ours, Hot Mess Happy Hour, and with the Wing Chicks, they've got something planned coming up. Side of the Storm just released a new episode this morning, Like Father, Like Daughter, and False Starts all start the week off. So, Tim, you got anything else to say?
No.
Go get a house. And with that, we are out of here.